Hey folks, Sam I Am here. There were a couple of videos that were released from Swift about Sibos, which I believe is their user conference that's going on in Australia, maybe this week or next week. Anyway, there's two videos I wanted to share with you, and I think there's a lot of people and definitely some XRP YouTubers that still have no clue how Ripple is going to interconnect with Swift. I think this will help a little bit, and I'm sure there's some of you that have watched my videos and still aren't 100% clear. Certainly there's still some questions I have about exactly how it's going to work, but this kind of filled in some blanks for me, so I wanted to play this for you. This is the program manager for GPI at Swift, so let's hear what he has to say. He's talking about GPI and reasons to come to Sibos, their user conference.
And thirdly, we're going to expand that out into the ecosystem, working with fintech.
So fintech, what they mean in that context, those are the YRXs, all of these new exchanges. Basically, the landscape of banking is changing, and there's all of these new players that aren't traditional banks doing the traditional things banks do. And so he's talking about including those guys.
Also with corporates.
Corporates, that's the SAP integration with RippleNet that I've talked about, and bringing them into the fold.
Using open APIs.
Open APIs is how RippleNet is going to interact with, not partner with, not collaborate with, but both of these companies now have APIs. We went through the SR 2018 document. If you haven't seen that, go watch that video to where I kind of describe the changes in their high-level summary document that shows these are the message types that are changing. These are the elements within them that are changing, and it was all the kind of things that Ripple would need in order to get end-to-end tracking, as well as have real-time messaging and automation and so forth to get the human element out of it. Okay.
That the entire community can benefit from Swift GPI. That's why everybody should be at Sibos this year in Sydney.
Okay. Now, the second lady is, I think she's from Europe. She's going to talk about tips and so forth. This one's a little longer, but she brings up some good points as well.
The payments landscape is going through major transformation.
Major
This transformation is made possible thanks to new technology. It is driven by regulation. It is answering competitive pressure. And
so new regulations, those are all the faster payments initiatives, so forth. In the US, you have, President Trump putting out the requirements or the directives for the Treasury Department to push these faster payments things through. And then you have all of these sort of new banking type startups that are competing with the other banks. And of course, all of these credit unions and small to mid-sized banks that are getting on RippleNet, they're going to be on level footing and no longer paying the big banks the high fees that they have been. So those are the competitive pressures that all these guys are facing.
It's allowing to address new customer demand. Instant payment plays a major role in that transformation.
Okay, so, and again, you need to understand the difference between instant payments and settlement. So, a payment can be just a number in a bank account, but the settlement is when the value, the funds actually are changed and finalized. So Swift does instant payments. Ripple does settlements, okay?
There are more and more initiatives around the globe of implementing instant payment in the different communities, domestically and on a regional basis. Instant payment, therefore, will be a major topic at Sibos this year. Instant payment, is it really a real-time reality? This is the question we will try to answer in the conference session that Swift is organizing on Tuesday, 9 a.m. at Sibos, where different instant payment experts will be invited coming from different countries, different regions with different experiences, and they will be sharing with us how they approached instant payment in their domestic communities. They will share with us how to position instant payment products and services to their clients.
Okay, so there's been all like hundreds of these domestic initiatives just to basically speed up local banking within the same country, and then there is the cross-border stuff and exchanging between currencies and so forth. So she's primarily talking about the local intra-country stuff.
They will share the lessons learned and the key success factors. This session will be of particular relevance for the European banks that are today going through different instant payment initiatives in the different countries and at pan-European level, mainly with the important milestone coming next month in November of the Eurosystem putting in production the
November 30th.
Instant payment service called TIPS. SWIFT will be showcasing,
which is 10 days after the 20th, which is the service release 2018, where that upgrade is mandatory to get the UETR and the real-time messaging and so forth.
a new messaging services, SwiftNet Instant. After the successful launch of AUNPP, the Australian new payment platform that was powered by Swift, Swift has launched a new messaging service, SwiftNet Instant. SwiftNet Instant will be a messaging service that will allow customers to connect securely to multiple instant payment clearing and settlement mechanisms, so-called CSMs.
So right there, those are companies, or the primary one is going to be Ripple, okay, clear as day. Except it's not, I'm sure Ripple will eventually connect directly, but out of the gate, it's going to be Temenos integrating Ripple into their software, and we're going to show you some slides from them next. And they will be the one sort of messaging between Swift, and Swift is really just a messenger service. You know, they're just connecting the dots between the banks and the payment processors and RippleNet. Ripple is going to be the key, the big player when it comes to cross-border payments, and possibly even some local stuff within the Eurozone, because you still have various currencies that you need to convert to. And, you know, I think they're going to do a lot of stuff with corporates and maybe even some retail with this payment hub that she's going to talk about next.
Another important topic that will be discussed at Cybos is ESMIC, the Eurosystem Single Market Infrastructure Gateway, or the consolidated gateway to access all Eurosystem market infrastructure. The aim of that project is to create synergies between the different market infrastructure and services offered by the Eurosystem. That will of course create benefits to the Eurosystem, but mainly also to the users of these different services, offering them a real single window to manage the central bank liquidity, money.
Okay, a payment hub to manage central bank liquidity. And how are all the central banks going to be exchanging value with XRP? So this is probably very likely going to be a preferred liquidity provider that Ripple names, or they will be interconnected with an exchange that is a preferred liquidity provider. And just like they've named the 3 ones for the Philippines, and I forget the other 2 countries off the top of my head, this will be the one. Either it'll be this payment hub or somebody that's directly connected into this payment hub that will be the key liquidity provider for the Eurozone.
Across business line, securities, payments, retail, wholesale.
And you know, I don't know if some of you have read the quote from David Schwartz talking about other worlds. Securities is one of those other worlds. And of course, we've all heard from Ripple how they talk about basically you can put XRP in one end of RippleNet and get whatever you want: stocks, bonds, securities, oil, any other commodity out the other end. And this is kind of what she's describing, is more of this hub where you have all of these services available. This has Ripple written all over it.
Very important project, of which TIPS is actually the first phase, and for which the second phase will be a major revamp of the high-value payment system, Target 2, that will take place in November 2021. These projects represent a major challenge, important, very important projects for the European banks. SWIFT is fully committed to help facilitate our banks, our community, to actually face these different challenges. So I'm very much looking.
And once again, they're pointing out how they're helping and facilitating, not implementing solutions. Ripple is the solution. These guys are a facilitator that are going to connect the parties. Okay. Somebody posted this on Twitter, and I saw it, and I want you to look at this right here, GPI Ripple. I'm going to play the guy talking about it. This is the program manager for payments at Temenos. This is the Temenos YouTube channel right here, and this was a conference call where they gave these really exciting corporate presentations and so forth.
And some of them are not 24/7, by 365, but in order to have a digital
He's talking
bank,
about these domestic real-time payments initiatives around
really
the globe.
give the benefits to the end clients in terms of real-time payments. I think the other thing that's important to realize is real-time isn't only about domestic payments, as in country payments. Real-time is something that is happening globally. And globally, cross-country payments, instant payments, are also something that is emerging very quickly. If you look at Swift's GPI service, Swift is offering the ability to make a payment cross-border, cross-currency in close to real time through their GPI service, which allows you to track the payment all the way through to when the beneficiary's bank acknowledges the payment is available for the beneficiary to utilize in their particular account. So it is also something that's cross-border. It's also something that's international.
Okay, so he just described GPI right there, and that's what this stands for. What the two Swift videos were just about. Now he's going to talk about Ripple, and he does these separately, but we're going to come back to that.
And GPI is not the only service that offers that. Of course, you have companies like Ripple. So Ripple is a fintech provider. They use a distributed ledger network, or blockchain, if you want to call it that, for them to make their payments cross-border. And as long as you are part of the Ripple network, you can make a cross-border payment through a digital, a DLT, a digital ledger, in fairly real time, or very close to real time. And we've done a lot of proof of concepts at Temenos around these things. And I think the last thing around the digital.
Okay. Now look at the the punctuation, I guess. Here he's got GPI Ripple, comma, etc. What he's saying there, and what he can't say on this call until it's been announced, is he's showing us the payments are going from GPI to Ripple, not GPI and Ripple. Otherwise it'd be GPI, comma, Ripple, comma, etc. He's showing us, it's initiated through GPI, it gets handed off to Ripple, and this is for settlement. If you want payments with Nostro and Vostro, you can still do that through GPI, but if you want actual settlement in real time, it's got to go GPI to Ripple, or directly on RippleNet, as he talked about there. Okay, now let's also jump to, I want to show you, let's see here. If I can find it, it might be, yeah. So I've talked about these initiatives just going on all around the world. This is the first time I've actually seen a slide of them. So there's just a list of some of the various faster payment task forces and so forth by all of these central banks all around the world. So, this is something that's happening all over in all of these different countries. Everybody's going after this same kind of idea. Now, also want to show you this. So remember, this was the demo. I showed this in another video, went into a little more detail about it. But this was where the guy did the demo on stage right here, and he brought up the actual Swift teller interface that they would fill out all the forms just like they would for a normal one. But instead of going over Swift and taking several days, it goes through their Temenos T24 system, through Ripple, and does all the exchanges and so forth. And then the payment's not only paid, but it's settled. And then I also want to show you their call to action right here at the end and play this little bit for you.
Biggest thing, number 3. If you look at all of the people we have in the room here today, this is a trusted network. You're all on the same Temenos T24 stack. If everyone gets onto the Ripple network and can move money around, you can get away from all the Swift networks, all that kind of stuff. You have your own trusted network. And the ability within this room to generate new value for your customers that didn't exist before. Okay? So just don't talk about it. Let's go do it. Thank you very much, everyone.
So there he is, standing in front of a room full of Temenos customers, telling them, get on RippleNet, get away from Swift altogether. Of course, this was 2 years ago. And I think they probably realized, well, there's still reasons to interconnect with Swift. And I've talked about those. It has to do with sanctions and a number of other things, mainly training. And, just they realized, hey, the real play here is just to integrate with Swift, be able to use their front end, use all of their infrastructure and their training that's already, the industry already knows how to use it. They're using it today. Let's just speed it up and make it faster. But clearly, as I've talked about, this is the beginning of the end in the last video. This is what I'm talking about. As the companies take the slow path, which is the 1 to 2 banks or FIs a week that Ripple is signing up for RippleNet, as that network grows and grows and grows, there's less and less incentive or reason for them to send this stuff through Swift. Eventually, they're just going to leave them behind and do it directly on RippleNet. There's just no reason to use Swift other than to be able to flip the switch and get, have this massive change come about globally without all the delays and the time it's going to take to bring these banks up one at a time or 2 or 5 or 10 at a time onto RippleNet directly. I think that's it. So hopefully that gives you kind of a little better picture of the integration and how it's going to work. It's going to be through guys like Temenos who have integrated RippleNet into their back-end banking software. They're the number one provider, 3,000 banks in 150 countries. These guys are it. SAP is it for corporate payments, and they've done pretty much the same thing. They already have the Swift interface as well. So, Swift does not need to partner with Ripple or RippleNet directly. They've created the API. Ripple already has their APIs. Those two mesh. I've talked about that when I went through the service release 2018 about these are all the changes that Swift is making, and look how well they match up with the things that Ripple would need in order to do these payments. And, we just heard from the Swift people talking about how they're doing this for third-party payment processors and so forth. They have a term for it. So that's what's coming down the pipe. That's what's going to enable 589. If these are the two things that I'm watching for, is the Temenos announcement that they've integrated RippleNet and they're going to make it available to their customers. That will come late November. We've also got the TIPS network coming up in Europe. That's another big one that we're looking for in late November. We have this date from the Ripple Riddler on November 5th or 4th and 5th. I'm wondering if that might be the U.S. Faster Payments Task Force or something else, maybe Moja Loop, or I'm not sure, but there's something else I think that he was suggesting is coming sort of earlier. They've got a long ways to go. I've been watching the volumes. It was below $1 billion for the last 24 hours, for the last day or two. Just really low volumes on XRP. That's not going to cut it. The price is going to have to go way up in order to have the liquidity that will be needed to process these bigger payments and some of these heavier volumes that turning this on will require or necessitate. So I'm not sure what that's going to be November, but some early November, but something. And then of course, GPI SR 2018 is all mandatory, not GPI, but SR 2018 is mandatory on the 20th. And that's going to enable tips on the 30th, as well as some of these integrations. So I'm going to be watching close for that. As a side note, Ripple Riddler has deleted or marked private his videos on YouTube. So they're gone. There were a couple I didn't get to solve. I'm a little disappointed. I should have pulled copies off and downloaded them. And I think that he's also deleted and not just suspended his Twitter account. So they may be done. It's coming down to the wire here. If you have not finalized your XRP positions, you need to really think about that and get that done soon. That's what I got, folks. I'm Sam I Am. We'll catch you next video.